We've been asked a few times this week how we go about converting large footprint desks, 1800s, 1600s, to make a smaller footprint desk that can be used either in the home or in a reconfigured office. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you through a product that came in and step by step show you how we actually convert these large footprint desks into something much more practical for today's use.
So here we have the donor product. This is a 1600 by 1200, 800 by 600 corner desk in oak veneer, manufactured by a company called Blue Line, which was supplied new by ourselves in about 2002 to Scottish Natural Heritage. This one has a standalone desk high pedestal. The product itself is 18-19 years old. It's looking okay. There are a few parts where it's perhaps looking a little bit tired, but the frame itself is there. Everything's in condition that we can reuse. And we're going to take you through the process of converting this into a 1600 straight desk. The first thing we do is strip the whole desk down to its component parts. As you can see here, we've got the flat panelled veneered items, which is the two modesty panels in the top. We have the legs themselves, in this case, steel cantilevers. We're going to keep those as they are at the moment because to convert this down to 1600 straight, we can reuse those component parts. As soon as we've got all this done, it's now ready to start looking at remanufacturing. So when we come to actually cut the desktop, here we're just going to use a track saw. If we were doing a bigger batch of these, we would have a template set up, but in this case, track saw, firmly clamped, is ideal. We're going to be working around about 5mm inside the edge because we want to keep the edging strip that comes off for reuse on the desk. And the whole thing will be set up and just take a few seconds. We now have the two parts. The cut-off section will be recut again, and that'll form shelves for narrow bookcases, as that gives us an ideal size. But other than that, we've now got the desktop is actually cut specifically to the size we need, in this case 1600 to just below 800, and by the time we've reattached the edging, that will give us our correctly sized desk.
So what we're going to look at now is how we reapply edges. It's very straightforward. They're cut, glued, and simply pushed into position before being clamped and left overnight. Any excess simply wiped off along the edge, and on veneered furniture it's quite simple, but we then give that a sand once it's dried. We have stock edgings that come off all the furniture that we have, and we're also able to buy new ones. But that'll sit now for about 4 or 5 hours, and then we'll start to give a quick sand.
What we're going to look at now is how we reattach the legs. We'll remove the existing fittings that were used to hold the previous legs. In this model it's quite simple, they're just a straightforward screw in using an Allen key. Again, on most desks we will strip all of the fittings to enable us to actually use them for future desks. Next step is quite simple. Now what we do is, using a pre-marked hole to locate it, we can now actually drill down to the depth we need using a hand drill. Once drilled, very straightforward to actually reattach the fittings. Again, simply screwing in. If we were doing a small batch, we would automate this process with some of the drills, but in this situation, just to show you how it works, nice and simple. What it enables us to do is when we come to build the desk, it will be a firm metal to metal fitting, which is really what you want, instead of wood screws just into the underside of the top. We're now going to have a look at the leg frame. This came from an original 1600 by 1200 desk. The legs themselves and the modesty panel are still perfectly usable. If we were doing a bank of perhaps 3 desks back to back, another 3 forming a bank of 6, then it's quite acceptable to use the 800 leg and the 600 leg, because each alternate desk will then have the legs clamped together, providing structural stability. If it was standalone, we would probably then put an 800 leg at either end using some of the stock we have. In this job we took out about 70 workstations. And the final stage is reassembly, refit the cable ports, fit the top back on, and there you've now cut down the large footprint to a much more usable 1600 by 800. Depending on the project, we could actually resand the surface and completely refinish it if required, but on the whole, a job like this means that you've got a nice, functional, practical desk, completely reusing the original product, and all that's left over is a corner leg, a modesty panel which will get used for bookcases, and the offcut from the top, which again gets used to form bookcase shelving.